Hi, welcome to the beginning of week 5 for our semester, our spring semester again. This is Mr. Carbonaro here, doing our weekly office hours session. Sorry it was a little bit late. I usually start at 5:30 sharp, but I was getting some stuff prepared today. So we have started at 5:30, 5:35. So if you're joining us late, you did not miss anything. You did not miss anything. But there's a couple things I want to go over. So again, every Monday from 5:30 to 6, we'll be doing our live stream office hours in here in my office. And if you have any questions, you just come in, you chat them in, leave a comment. I also read my comments throughout the entire week and whenever notifications pop up through my YouTube. So I will be doing that as well. So if you have any questions regarding any of the lessons that we do, any of the anything throughout the entire week, that'd be great. So if you're joining us from Long Beach City College, we got 5 people right away, so that's awesome. If you're in my personal finance class, this does not pertain to you because you don't meet on Tuesday, Thursday. But for my other 3 classes, my Intro to Business, my 2 personal finance classes, and our social media class, we do not meet tomorrow. Tomorrow's flex day. It's a faculty professional development day, so all the campus is closed. There's no services for students on campus tomorrow, but there will be classes will resume on Wednesday as scheduled. But if you're in our any of my classes on Tuesday afternoon, Tuesday morning, no classes tomorrow. We'll resume everything on Thursday. And so what I want to do real quick is just kind of go over we'll start with our GBiz 10 personal finance classes. We'll go to GBiz 5 and then social media on what we're going to be doing this week, the one day that we meet later on. And then I'll go through the syllabus and the course outline to make sure we're on track. We know what's going on. And then the rest of the time, I'm going to be talking a little bit about, because for our personal finance classes in class, we finish up chapter 4. We finish up the taxation problem. So just want to go over some things to think about regarding taxation. And then with our GBiz 5, we're going over the corporation and small business entrepreneurship starting on Thursday. So I want to go over a little bit of that. But for my personal finance classes, my web class, and then my in class next week, we're going to be going over banking and interest rates. And so this is where the beginning of the class, yes, the first 4 chapters, was very foundational. Starting with chapter 5, you really get into stuff that's going to be used on a daily basis, banking and interest rates and stuff like that. So I just had some really interesting stats, over the weekend, doing some research, studying it up on stuff, on current events and stuff like that. But saw a really interesting graph regarding savings, regarding inflation throughout the entire for the past 20, 30 years. So want to go over that with you later on. So the second half of this live stream will kind of be like a little mini lesson. And then on Friday, you'll see a Fun Fact Friday again. I think I'm going to go a little bit more into savings and savings and personal finance, and how to pay off some debt and how to do some debt management. So we're going to do that on Friday, a more in-depth, probably 10-15 minute video on that for a Fun Fact Friday. But if you are tuning in and you're not subscribed to my channel, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. So one of my goals is to at least get 100 followers, so that I could get a personalized YouTube handle. So right now, if you look at my YouTube web link, it's got a bunch of letters and numbers that YouTube gives. But if I get 100, I get my own personalized one. So please subscribe if you haven't subscribed to it. At the end of the video, you'll see a link to subscribe to this video as well. But yeah, let's get started. So with personal finance GBiz 10 online, I graded all your stuff. I graded, somebody put a little emoticon, I like that, a little emoji. I graded your week 4, so your tax example, graded your homework, graded your discussion boards, graded your test. I inputted those scores on LMS, so please look at those. And then this week we are going to start Chapter 5, which is banking and interest rates. So all the different services that banks offer, checking and savings accounts, travelers checks, all this type of stuff, and then how interest is calculated, because all interest is how banks make money. So when you go to McDonald's, let's say you go to McDonald's and you get their new Mac Junior, right? They have their Mac Junior, their Grand Mac out right now. So you go to McDonald's, you walk up to the counter, you give the person behind the cashier, you order a burger, you give them money, they give you the burger, right? McDonald's product is the burger. You go to a clothing store, right? You go to the mall, you go watch a movie. Like this past Thursday, I saw Logan, Wolverine, great movie. You go over there. Let's say I want to buy a movie ticket. I give them money. They give me a movie ticket. Well, banks, what they do is you give them your money, right, through your savings and checking account. And the way that they make money is by lending that money out. Not only do they lend that money out, but they lend it on top with interest. And so the interest is just how to finance the money. So if it's 2% interest per year, we talked about how to compound it, time value of money. That's why time value of money becomes important for us. That's how they pay for stuff. And so our goal is to limit the amount of interest, or to know the amount of interest that's with it, so that we're able to balance out our money. And so that's what we're going to be doing with GBiz 10 during this week that we have for Chapter 5. Now, for my GBiz 10 students on class, on Thursday, we're going to finish up our Thursday GBiz 10. We're going to finish up our personal income statement, our personal federal income statement. And so what I want to do right now is show you exactly what our classes are doing for this week. So our GBiz 10 in class, we just finished right here, right? We just finished right here. You all turned in your assignment. GBiz 10, I graded those assignments. Those assignments are in. Your scores are inputted. If you have questions regarding your scores, let me know. I believe I inputted them all the correct way. I just basically took it off your My Finance Lab, transposed those numbers. Again, if you did the homework late, it got deducted 10% each day that it was late. Not each week, but each day. And so your homework was due on March 2nd. Here's Flex Day, March 7th. Tomorrow is Flex Day, so we don't have any school tomorrow. And then week 5 right here, we're going to be finishing up our personal income statement that we did right here, our federal income tax statement. We're going to finish it up right here. And then we have our test number 1. And so test number 1 is a week from tomorrow. I'm going to be talking more about test number 1 on Thursday. So make sure you come to class on Thursday and we go over that, because there'll be some good little hints for you regarding that first test on March 14th. So that test number 1 is that week. And as you can see, I mean, we're more than a quarter of the way done with the semester. So we're really moving along. All the assignments are right here. So you can see, I'll just highlight that, showing that we're done with that assignment. And then we're having our test number 1 coming up. So please make sure, if you're in both of my personal finance classes, it's the same exact way, where we're going over the same exact stuff at the same exact time. So if, let's say you missed, let's say you can't come to class on Thursday morning, but you want to come in the afternoon, you definitely come in the afternoon, because of the fact that we're going to be finishing up. We left off the same area. So everything's the same. But test number 1, remember, there's no makeup exams. I don't do makeup exams, so make sure you show up. That's that. If you have any questions, please type them on the chat so I could repeat them out to people, and then maybe answer the questions if there are any. So GBiz 5, let's go to GBiz 5. So GBiz 5, we're really going along. And GBiz 5, we're doing a lot of stuff. We're doing a lot of stuff this semester. And so we already took our test, right? We're all the way through here. We've picked out our teams. If you don't know your team is online. You better get started on that. You know, our team projects are all the way down here, but they're going to come at you fast. So make sure we do that. We took our test last week. Hopefully using Top Hat for your exam was beneficial to you. You got to do it on your laptop, your tablet, your iPhone, your Android, whatever it was. So no Scantrons, everything's there. Once I closed it up, you should have received not only your score, but the answers to the tests so that you could review it on your own. If you do have any questions regarding that for GBiz 5, come see me. We'll go over that. We'll make sure that everything's set. Again, flex days tomorrow. Don't show up to class. We won't be there, but 8:50 before class is due, our TED Talk 2 is due, right? So if you don't know where to find our TED Talks, I put them on our LMS page right underneath where it says TED Talks. It has a link to it, but this is what it's going to look like. So our TED Talk is this. GBiz 5, TED Talk number 2, Why Capitalism Works, right? This is a business class, and it says, let's begin. Chapter 5 of our text explores entrepreneurship. So after Chapter 4, we go over Chapter 5, which is entrepreneurship. Cultural depictions of successful entrepreneurs and CEOs are almost all negative. So I want to get that out of our framework, that capitalism isn't bad. It's the lifeblood of our economy. It's the way that business works. It gives us motivation. It gives us competition. It gives us everything that you see countries that don't embrace capitalism stagger. I mean, look at the past 8 years, 9 years of our economy. I mean, we haven't grown above 2%. That's pathetic. We're America. We're capitalism. We should be growing at a rate of 3, 4, 5% a year. And so, why capitalism works? There's Gordon Gekko saying greed is good, and most recently, there's the hedonism of the Wolf of Wall Street with Leo DiCaprio. In fact, the opposite is true. An entrepreneur can only succeed by satisfying a customer's needs. So think about that. If an entrepreneur doesn't, we always talk about greed and how all the greedy business person and stuff, but it's always the other person that's greedy, right? We're never greedy. It's always the other person that's greedy. So an entrepreneur can only succeed. Businesses can only succeed if they're satisfying your need. And that's so true. Think about the places that have gone out of business. They probably haven't satisfied a need yet, right? That's why when we talk about the very beginning of the year, what are the 3 things of a business, right? It's to produce and sell goods for a profit that satisfies a need, right? Produce and sell goods for a profit that satisfies a need. So if we're not satisfying needs, then entrepreneurs are not staying in business. So make sure we do that lesson. It's due before class on Thursday. And remember everything. So when you watch the video, not only, you could watch the video, and then while you watch it, as it's playing over here on the side, you can answer the questions. I have 7 questions. So the first 5 are multiple choice, right? Just like the last one. First 5 are multiple choice. Second 2, name and describe some of the traits discussed in Chapter 5 that most entrepreneurs share. So that's relating back to the book. And then all big businesses had to have started out as small businesses. Name and describe one reason why a small business is important. So again, from the book, there's specific things in the book that tell you why small business is important. We're going to be going over that in class. Then, and let me move this out of the way so you can actually see it. So as you think, then you could dig deeper. And I put an article here. So read the article. Once you read the article, go to the next session. And it says entrepreneurship and wealth creation. And you go to this, and 200 to 300 words. And it's not so much 200 to 300 words. I realize that it's characters. I got to go back and edit that up. It doesn't allow you to do more than 300 characters. So all the discussion questions, just write to the completeness of the answer. But it says, read the article under supplemental info called Why George Gilder is Right About the Role Entrepreneurs Play in Driving the Economy. And it says, Gilder's more challenging point is that accumulation of wealth by the small number of creators of new information and entrepreneurs who commercialize, it is justified because these people are best able to use this wealth to promote more innovation and add to the knowledge base of civilization. Do you agree with this assessment? Why or why not? This is strictly your opinion, right? I'm not an English professor. I'm not going to grade subjectively. And I know some of you may have opinions and, oh man, what happens if I don't say the opinion that Mr. C wants to hear, right? I could care less what I want to hear, right? I mean, if you look at Steve Jobs, the way that he did business, he told people when they asked, what are the things when you hire a new person, what do you tell them to do? He's like, what do I tell them to do? I tell them to tell me what do I need to do? I don't hire people that are below me. I hire people that are either at my level or greater, and most likely greater than me. Well, same thing happens with my students, right? I want you guys to be able to share. I want you guys to be able to go in here and really discuss your viewpoint. Whether you think you may agree with me, I mean, I don't give my opinion on, so I give my opinion on business stuff. Absolutely. I mean, we're a business class. But remember, this isn't a political science. This isn't a sociology. This isn't a liberal arts type of thing where I'm going to be judging you based off of your opinion on stuff, right? This is strictly, are you relating it to the book? And if you do have an opinion, back it up, right? Whether I agree with it or not is beyond the point. I could agree with somebody's point, but if they don't back it up the right way, they're not going to get the full points as somebody that I disagree with, but they backed it up 100%. So make sure we're backing it up. Now, we don't need MLA cited sources. We don't need any of that type of stuff. But I want you to use the book. I want you to use outside resources if you can, and just answer the question to its completeness, right? Answer the question to its completeness. And so that's what we're doing for Introduction to Business. For our social media class, the last class before I start talking about savings and stuff like that, our social media class, what we go over is what we're going to be going over for our LAC class. If you're in my Tuesday, Thursday LAC class, we're taking a test, and then we're going to do an activity, a little bit more on privacy and ethics. And maybe we'll probably get into Twitter, actually. I made a video this past Friday saying how to create a Twitter account. Please look at that video so that you know how to create a Twitter account, because we may be coming in on Thursday and looking at business etiquette using Twitter. For our PCC class, we're 100% doing that. We're going to be going over business etiquette, business ethics. We're going to be logging into our Twitter accounts, and we're going to be tweeting companies, and we're going to be seeing how they respond to us. So please make sure that if you haven't done it, please sign up for Twitter. I know some of us in the class, you've asked me, when are we going to jump right into it? Well, I'm going to tell you, our class is an academic class. So yes, there's going to be writing. Yes, there's going to be tests. Yes, there's going to be that. We're not a community service class where you just sign up for Twitter and tweet a couple passages a day. No, that's pointless. You could sign up for Twitter by just going to twitter.com and pressing sign up and following it, or you could follow my video where I have you go through the steps as well. But for our social media class, we're going to be going over business etiquette and ethics, because it's hugely important if you're a business, the proper etiquette. If you're going to run your business, what are the types of things that you have to look at? If you compare Twitter, Facebook, website accounts of different companies, how do they differ? What's the etiquette and ethics that they have behind it? So please make sure we're doing that. Please make sure we're getting ready for that. So before we jump into talking about savings and stuff, does anybody, I have 6 people out there on it. Any questions about any of the classes that we have, that you're in, that you have any questions about? And I'm just going to leave it open for the next 15 seconds, so that if you do have any, type it in there. I'll repeat the question, and then we'll answer it. All right. So let's get started. First of all, if you're tuning in to this live stream, it's because you're in one of my business classes, most likely. If you are not in one of my business classes and you're tuning in for the benefit of it, great. Subscribe to it. Tell your friends. That's how social media gets started. So it's all about social. But one thing that I wanted to show you before we get into anything is I'm a social media teacher, so I'm on Twitter all the time. I'm on Facebook and Snapchat, and I'm looking at stuff. And one of the most interesting things came up regarding schooling. And so let me show you. So there's a website called complex.com. Came out with a thing. It said top 10 most worthless college majors, right? And so the reason why we're talking about this is because the first thing that comes up with finance is this. Pick a field that has earning potential. We always talk about, oh my gosh, we need to raise minimum wage $15 and we need to do this. That only depends on your skills, right? Minimum skills equals minimum wage. It just makes sense. This past Friday, our department, we meet, once every year, twice a year type of thing, with an advisory board. And what an advisory board does is basically they're industry professionals that tell us as the teachers what we should be focusing on, what are the skill sets we should be focusing on for students out there, and to tell them what we need to be focusing on so that you're employable, so that when you come out of college, the businesses, they can match up jobs with your skill set. So right now there's a disconnect, right? Right now there's a disconnect. We have companies that want to hire. They need to hire. People are starting to retire. The baby boomer generation is leaving the marketplace, and they need to fill the jobs with you. Now the problem is that there's this disconnect between it, meaning they have expectations, you have expectations, they have skill sets they need, you have skill sets you have, and they're not connecting. It's like two magnets that are just going the opposite way, right? And so what we need to do is merge those two. We need the magnet to come together. And so one of the best ways to start out with that is to get a good major. Is if you're in college right now, to focus on something that has earning potential. Some of these majors may sound great, and they may, oh my gosh, it's really touching my emotional state. Okay, I understand that, but you need to eat. You need to have a job. You need to do things to survive as well. So this is not my list of it, but top 10. Well, this was from April. This was from 2013, and the reason why I pulled this one just because the website looked, it was a lot more in depth rather than the other one that I had. It was a subscribe article type of stuff, and I already viewed my free one once, right? Personal finance. Don't pay for stuff you don't need to pay for. So this is the top 10 most worthless college majors. I don't know if they mostly haven't changed. Maybe the placement has, but the actual thing hasn't. So first one's art history, psychology, journalism, and especially journalism now. I mean, with the rise of social media, I mean, I teach a department where, I mean, you could be your own journalist by putting stuff out online. So journalism, religious studies, education, right? I don't have a major in education. I got my MBA, I got my business administration major, right? Finance degree behind it. So this is talking about like a doctorate in education, a degree in education, anthropology, archaeology, communications, theater, philosophy, creative writing, right? You can see if you're one of my students, you're not on this list. There's no business major on here. There's no engineering. There's no doctor. There's no computer science. There's none of that type of stuff. Why? Because these other majors you can basically get away with by reading up on your own. Some of the best communicators haven't taken a communications class. They just know how to speak. And so there are certain things that you can do to better yourselves with that. But that's the first thing. So if you want to talk about how do I get out of debt, maybe you don't even want to start in debt. And so one of the things that you can do is, pick a major that makes sense, that fits your career. And that's what we talk about in chapter 1 and 2 of personal finance. So if you're in any of my other classes, we talk about all that stuff, picking the right career, picking the right type of stuff like that. Okay, so you got your degree. You're not majoring in one of those that don't have a good payout at the end. Meaning, you go through school for 4 years, you rack up $60,000 in debt on a good side. Good. Let's see what Mark says. Mark says, agreed. I think that students should be able to differentiate hobbies and what the job market demands. Perfect, right? And that's what it is. And I'm not discouraging people from necessarily, you like creative writing. That's fine. But do you really want to spend $50,000 on that? I don't feel that's there. I feel like you could take those classes. Definitely, you could go back to Long Beach City College and take those. So that's why we are here, right? Whether it's your stepping stone to your personal finance class, or I mean, it's your stepping stone to your degree, or it's something that's that you come back to do. That's why we're here. But to spend 50, and especially if you go to an Ivy League school and you're majoring in communications, why? That's just a waste of time. And so um, we don't I don't necessarily agree with I 100% agree with saying that differentiate your hobbies between the job market. So okay, we got your stuff, and let's say you start working, you start having a job. Even when you're having a part-time job, you can start doing stuff. So you gotta realize what not is more important, but what is happening in your life right now. So meaning, if you have a lot of debt and then you're like wanting to invest stuff, pay off the debt first. Why? Because your debt interest rate is probably higher than your investment rate that you're going to get. Meaning, if you have a good investment portfolio, and yeah, let's say when it's good, it's hitting 12, 13%. But then when it's bad, you're losing money. So it averages out to about 8, 9%. A good growth investment type of stuff. Well, your debt is probably combined between your credit cards, all your student loans that you have, everything like that. Probably the interest rate's higher. Probably it's like 10%. So every time you're investing $1 and earning 8%, you're paying off something and paying it off at 10%. You're actually losing 2% with every investment you do. So might as well hold those investments, pay off the debt. When you start paying off the debt, it exponentially gives you more money, because as you pay off each individual loan, the minimum payment for that loan goes down, goes down, goes down, and you have more disposable income in your account to start paying off stuff. So I'm a big believer in paying off debt. I'm a big believer in, if your check represents 100%, throw 10% in savings, 10% to charity or to church. Why? Just because, not only for religious or moral reasons, but the fact that you could write those off at the end of the year. It's a charitable donation. It's a win-win. So let me ask you a question. There's only 6 people watching right now, and maybe there'll be more coming in later. But let me ask you, what percentage of Americans, right? What percentage of Americans do you feel so let me ask this question. How much money do you think Americans have in their savings accounts? So there's like 4 different categories. 0, $1,000 and less, 10 to $1,000 to $10,000, and $10,000 or more. What do you think the majority of people have in their savings account? Do you think, if it looks like a pie, do you think it's majority 0%, majorities less than 1,000, majorities 1 to 10,000, or the majorities 10,000 or more in their savings account? What do you guys think? 6 of you, just type it in real quick. What do you think the majority is? 1 to 1,000. You think the majority is 1 to 1,000? Okay. Let's see. We see. I want some more. I want some more in there. I'll give you guys like 30 seconds. One to Mark, you said 1 to 10,000. So okay, so the majority of people go from 1,000, from 10,000 below. Okay, good. Okay, 1 to 10,000, Vicky. 1 to 10,000. Okay. Majority of people have between 1 and 10,000 dollars in their account. 1 to 10,000. Okay, let's see. Let's see how we did. So right here you see. Right here you see. 34% of Americans have 0 in their savings account. 0 in their savings account. The ones that said 1 to 10,000, you were technically correct, because it's actually 0 to 10,000 is 35 and 15. But look at that, 34%. But I could do it the opposite way. 34% and 35%. 69%, nearly 70% of Americans have less than $1,000 in their account, right? Less than $1,000. And so that's why I say, like, yeah, pay off debt, but also, swipe away 10% right off the bat. put some in savings so that you're financially sound, so that if an emergency happens, your job gets lost, your hours get cut, you can use that to support yourself, right? So the majority of people, it is kind of depressing because it's called, um, delayed gratification, right? Because when you put money away, you're like, oh my gosh, like I could be using that for something else. But you need a safety net. And so that's what with our GBiz 10 class this week for our online, next week for our in class, we're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about our checking account, our savings account, how we could use those tools to our benefit, right? This chart I got from a great Twitter account called Ninja Economics, I believe, is her Twitter handle. And so it's really good. And so, yeah, 70% of people have less than $1,000 in their savings account. 15% have $1,000 to $10,000 in their savings account, and only 15% have $10,000 or more. I mean, that's 15 out of 100 people have $10,000 or more, which is probably legitimately the right amount to have in case of an emergency, in case of stuff that happens. So make sure that we're looking at that and see where you can fit in, right? I always tell people, it's not about a goals type of mentality. Peter Thiel, the founder of PayPal and board of director on Facebook, has a theory about systems, right? He's got a great book out. It's called like Zero to One. It's an entrepreneurship a book. But one of the things that he has is systems based, meaning you put yourself in the right system, and then eventually things will come out. Rather than setting a goal and saying, I want $10,000 by the end of 2017. Well, if you don't hit $10,000 by the end of 2017, you probably do feel depressed. You probably do, oh my gosh, I can't make it. What's going on? Now I'm falling behind. No, if you have a systems, meaning you may not think about it like $10,000 by 2017, but if you have a system and say, okay, $5. If I could do $5 a week, can I do that? Okay. You start doing it out. Then you start realizing, oh my gosh, I'm saving $5 a week. I could do 10. I could do 15. Next thing you know, you may hit your goal. You may surpass your goal rather than putting sandbagging benchmarks or overestimated benchmarks. You actually get your goal. So that's one thing to take into consideration. This other thing that I have right here is talking about price changes, right? This is talking about the price changes of our goods and services. So textbooks are at the very top, college tuition's at the very top. And look at that. They just skyrocketed, right? These are skyrocketed. Why? If you go on the AEI, American Enterprise Institute, they give a good description of why. You look at a lot of the things below the overall inflation line. A lot of these are deregulated. I mean, the government's out of it. A lot of these are government is in it, right? I mean, food and housing, even though the government's really in that, but they don't affect food and beverage too much. It's just health code violations and stuff. But healthcare we're in, childcare we're in, college tuition and textbooks skyrocket, right? So this is the reason why I'm talking about this for all the people on my chat, whether you're social media, whether you're business, whether you're personal finance class, whether you're just tuning in because you want to tune in. Since 1996, those things have skyrocketed, right? Now, I could do a whole nother video on it at a later date, which I'm not going to go to right now just because we're running past 30 minutes and I like to keep this about half an hour. But price changes, right? Look at those price changes, investigate on your own, just kind of do your own little analysis on those industries, right? And to think about like the student loan debt, right? You guys are in college, if you're watching this video, you're in college. Think about student loans. Yeah, student loans are great. Great. If you can't afford college, just go get a student loan. Well, the universities know that, and the government knows that. So, which means is that you decide to go to UCLA. They raise their tuition to $15,000 a year. I don't know what the going rate of tuition at UCLA is, right? People can't afford it. Government says, oh man, people can't afford it. We'll offer loans. Guess what UCLA does the next year? Oh, all we got to do is keep raising our prices and the government will keep raising the standards. And then the inflation just goes through the roof. Textbooks go through the roof. College tuition goes through the roof. And so That's why I work vigorously on your behalf to get those bundles in for the textbook, to keep those textbook prices down, to keep you updated. I mean, our social media class, we don't even have a textbook because we want to keep those prices down for you as well. So look at all that. And then lastly, before we go, I'm just gonna kind of wrap this up real quick. One more thing: if you want more resources on videos and theory behind a lot of the stuff that we talk about, is right here. One of the great resources that we have, and I don't know why teachers don't use it. Maybe I don't know. Teachers are teachers. They have their own personal freedom to do whatever they want. But a great website, and I put the link right here, is called PragerU, Prager University, and they have a bunch of good videos based off of different stuff, right? Economics, environmental science, foreign affairs, history, all that type of stuff. Political, life studies, all this type of stuff. But what I like to do is look at the economic section of it, right? And they put out a bunch of great videos. Little video. I mean, I use these for my TED Talks. I'm going to be using these in class. If you're in my personal finance online, you watch this video for our discussion, the case for a flat tax, and we talked about it. There's a lot of good, interesting theories about taxation out there, that we're used to this progressive income tax, and the more you make, the more they take. But is that a fair philosophy? I mean, that's for you and your political science teachers to discuss. But, if you're sitting in class and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't agree with that more you make, the more they take type of philosophy, right? I work hard for my money. Why should the government take more money from me than what they should, right? And we look at the tax brackets and, the highest wages, they're paying their, the more they make, that's fair. Well, what happens when you get into that tax bracket? Do you want to pay more? I don't. So, why are your payroll taxes so high? This is a good little video. The case for a flat tax, how the minimum wage hurts young people. All these different videos where you may have a feeling about like, okay, well, I think that's what I want, but I really don't know the answers to it. I put this video on my website. So if you haven't visited my website, nickcarbonaro.com, why college is so expensive. And they go through this stuff. They go through all this type of stuff. So watch them. They're really good little videos. Working overtime, game of loans, private sector versus public sector, lemonade stand economics, should government bail out big banks, profits are all this different stuff that I guarantee you haven't heard in a school setting. So if you want to be what they call, from the Matrix, red pilled, go watch some of that stuff right there. Get an alternative viewpoint, right? You may agree or disagree with some of the stuff, whatever it is, but it's always good to envelop yourself in new, immerse yourself in new ideas, right? New ideas. But other than that, before we log off, I know we're 6 minutes over. I apologize. I try to keep these half an hour. But before we log off, any questions? Any questions on anything? Any questions on class settings? Any questions on tests? Any questions on anything, whether you're in my class or not? Before we log this off. And I'm just going to leave it for about 30 seconds, a minute, so that you could do it. But any questions? All right, if there's no questions, then no class tomorrow. Remember, Tuesday's flex day, no class tomorrow. Wednesday night, we'll be meeting for social media. Then Thursday, the four classes that I teach. GBIZ 5 in the morning, the 2 personal finance classes, and social media later in the afternoon. We will be resuming on Thursday. Thursday for GBIZ 25, we'll be taking tests. So GBIZ 25, Thursday, we will be taking your test there. So go look at our Canvas site. For the other classes, we use our LMS page. For GBIZ 10, how are we going to do the test? Through Top Hat? No, actually for GBIZ 10, good question. For GBIZ 10, we're going to use My Finance Lab. We're going to use the My Finance Lab to take your test. Just like you did your homework, you're going to log into My Finance Lab. Right on the home page of your My Finance Lab, it'll say test number 1. The test number 1 will only be open during the class hours. Once the class ends. So if you're, I don't know, who is that? I only see a picture. Are you in my LAC or my PCC class? It said for GBIZ 10, how are we going to do the test? Through Top Hat. And all the name says is G3, so I really don't know who that is. But if you're in my LAC class, the test will close at like 11:40 because 11:45, 11:50. Our class ends at 11:50, so the test will close at 11:50. If you're in my PCC class, the test will close at 2:25 because that's when the class ends. LAC, good. So it'll be closed at 11:50. So when you walk into class, once you log on at 10:25 when class begins, the test will be available. At 11:50, the test will not be available. So you'll have a little countdown timer on the test as well. You only get that one thing. After you take the test, you'll be able to find your score immediately. Once everybody's done, I will input those grades into LMS and to make sure that we're all on the same page. But yeah, you will be taking it through my finance lab. Good question. Good question. All right, and if you don't have any other questions, please, let me know. Email me. You could tweet me at NJ Carbonaro. Follow me on Twitter. I post some good, interesting articles on there, current events, stuff like that. YouTube, subscribe to me on this this gross protein bars. Yeah. If you're in my Tuesday class, you always see me eating the protein bars on the way over. But if I get my cookie dough ones from Costco, those are the good ones. The fudge ones aren't good, but cookie dough is good. But my wife takes all the cookie dough ones. So yeah, I gotta figure out what I gotta do. But she gets up earlier than me, so she always gets first dibs. But yeah, so we'll be doing that, and yeah, follow me on Twitter, subscribe on my YouTube page, check out my website, nickcarbonaro.com. I got relevant links up there. I have a resume. I got a bunch of stuff. It's more for my professional side, but it pertains to students as well. You can find everything on there. Other than that, it's 6:15. We've gone way over 40 minutes. I don't want to bore people that aren't out there watching it. So other than that, have a great night, and I will see you all, not tomorrow, but whenever our class meets after that. All right? Have a good one.